Hi, morning everyone. How are you all doing? I hope you're keeping well, and hopefully some of you have got some sunshine today. It's not too sunny here in Cardiff, but we've had a lovely week, so can't complain too much. So yeah, I've got Victoria answering any questions here from Virtual Village Hall, and also I'm happy to take any questions as I go. I'm just going to freestyle this session a bit. I was trying to give it some thought this morning, but I just I'm going to go with the flow because there's so much you can do with rope and t-shirt yarn and turn it into jewellery. And as you can see, this is all the same sort of knot here, using all sorts of materials that I find about the place. So I'm going to be a bit rubbish as far as telling you where to buy things because I don't really remember. It's just stuff that I've gathered over time. But yeah, and a little introduction from me. I'm Gemma. I run Lark, a little craft business here in Cardiff. I'll be there this afternoon doing some beginner's crochet. And I know I've met a few of you on Zoom and things in the last couple of months, which has been nice. And I will come back to Zoom. I'm just having a little bit of time off. Hiya, Sue. Nice to meet you. So yeah, let's get started. And actually, I just want to tell you one thing, just because I may forget, is I won't cover this during this session, but on my website, I've got a really simple video for those of you who do crochet, is how to make these necklaces. It's a very simple line of chains, and then a row of, I think, treble or half treble, I say in the video, and then you just go back and then you just make these kind of funky, big chunky necklaces. That's one done in 2 colors. So like I said, I won't cover that because some of you won't crochet, but I just thought I'd let you know because I think they're quite good fun and they're just using t-shirt yarn. All right, so today for the demonstration, I'm using this big chunky stuff, which I get from a company called Bobini, and it's 9mm rope. So it's nice and flexible, and it does make nice chunky necklaces. You may have seen stuff like this before. Mine's looking a bit grubby actually, but that's the good thing about this stuff, is I can also just give this a little wash, which is why I quite like using natural materials for jewellery. Other supplies that I have in front of me, but these actually aren't essential. This is something you might be jealous of. Hi, Debs. Is this big tray of these Kumihimo caps. So Kumihimo is like a kind of Japanese craft where you braid, and I think they've done a video on that before on Virtual Village Hall. But at the end of the jewellery, like on my earrings here, you insert the ropes into these kind of barrels, and it makes it obviously a really nice finish. The thing to look out for if you ever buy these is the dimension generally they're talking about is the hole opening, and make sure you get your millimeters right, because if you look at this big box, oh, thank you, Debbie. That's funny, my mum's maiden name is Debbie Hughes. Those are all the kind of random sizes I've bought over time, but these are all a little bit small. I still keep them because you never know when you might need all those ends, but the ones I prefer are the bigger ones, the bigger rope, and that's an 8mm hole there. So just buy them carefully. And all I do when I buy them is, you know, when I'm on a jewelry website or on Google or Amazon or anything, is just I just type in Kumihimo ends or Kumihimo caps, and that will help you find these little bits. And you can get them in all sorts of colors. I sometimes buy them in bronze and also gold. So I've got a nice little selection of them, and then they just finish off any piece of jewelry. Any piece of jewelry. So that, oh, mine's attached to my apron, is like that there. All right, so I just finish everything off with those. It makes it super easy. But obviously I always like to give you examples of ways of not buying loads of stuff. So I'll also show you how to finish it with a simple knot so that you don't actually have to go out and buy anything extra. So this necklace that I've got on, I wouldn't recommend, no worries, Toby, is this, this rope I'm using here. This is actually 3 colours. I've just used a yellow bit of rope, a green bit of rope, and a grey bit of rope. Doing this sort of one, I wouldn't recommend you jump in and do this first. Do a single colour one first, get into the technique, because this is obviously a little bit annoying because I needed all 3 ropes to stay in the same order because I kind of liked it to look symmetrical. So yeah, it's definitely I forget which way around it goes. It's definitely worth having a go, and then that means you don't have to go and buy some big chunky rope, because maybe you can use some thinner stuff you have at home and triple it up to make this. But let's get started. Okay. So let's make some space. Here we go. So to make a necklace about this big is about 2 meters of rope. If you wanted this kind of effect to go on longer, then you'd need 2.5 to 3 meters. So I'd recommend you, and obviously if you don't have any rope with you today, then you can obviously like have a little go with anything you've got at home. It will be a little bit harder with thinner stuff, but then you can obviously think about buying some rope if you like the technique. This is something these are kind of scrap balls, unfortunately, because I didn't really think, and I rolled them up into balls, and then they've gone all crinkled, which is quite sad. So don't roll your rope into balls. That's my top tip for today. And you may have noticed I just cut 2 meters. So think from my arm to my opposite shoulder. So I've got 2 meters of rope. Now lay down on the table. What I need is enough distance that's going to go round my neck. Okay, so I'm going to leave myself about 20 centimeters here, which is the bit that's going to be going around my neck later. And then I'm going to do a little kind of U shape. And the length of that is the length of this bit, the decoration bit here. So again, that would depend on what you like. I won't do a super long one today, because once you get the way to make this, you won't need to see it for that long. It's quite easy. So I've kind of got, so that's my necklace bit. And then that's on my necklace, like the bit that's going to go around my neck. And then that's the bit, the decorative bit here. I call it like a fishbone, this shape here. So if you can actually just make it look like a fish and just cross it over so that it's going in that direction. And also just to let you know, I do have a video on my website of making this, and it's in this angle, which might be a little bit easier for you to follow, but hopefully you'll follow me right now. So that's crossed over. And what I want to do is I want to get this long thread inside here. So I'm just picking up that long thread and bringing it into the middle. And I'm holding everything with my fingers there so that I don't lose the kind of the shape that I've got here. So I had a little fish shape, and then I've come inside the fish there. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the top and into the middle, over the bottom and into the middle, top, middle, bottom, middle. So I'm going over the top side here, and then I'm going to pull that thread through. Now, I wouldn't suggest that you'll probably get this the first time, because it's quite hard to make sure that it remains even, but like give it a little play. So go over the bottom and then pull it into the middle. Go over the top, through to the middle. So I'm picking it up now in my hands. What you're noticing, what I'm doing is I'm always holding the last knot that I did. So I'm making sure that it doesn't kind of run away with me. I'm trying to make them as close to each other as possible. So if I do it like this, I'm going over the top, under the back, and through the middle, over the bottom, through the middle, over the top. So already I'm not doing them super evenly. So let me just tinker with them a little bit. They're a bit wider here, and a bit thinner there. So that's something you'll definitely need to practice. And after a while, you'll be able to do it without looking. So I can actually do 2 at once now from doing it so many times. So there I went over, middle, over, middle, and then I pulled the thread all the way through, but I don't need to show off. So I'll try and do it by here so you can see as well. So I'm going over the top, through the middle, pulling it through. And it obviously gets easier as you get less thread. Over the bottom, through the middle, pull it through. Over the top, through the middle. So yeah, that's it. So you're just going to keep going until you get to the end. So I'm just going to whiz to the end a second, do my cheats double method. Now, what you need to make sure you leave at the end is enough distance to go around your neck. So don't keep going until you've run out of rope or string or t-shirt yarn. You must stop when you've got about 20 centimeters left on here. A little bit less, got a tiny bit more, no point wasting any. Okay, so I'll just push that down a bit. Let's pretend you've got some left here, and that often happens. That's totally fine, because what you do is you then, this is quite a satisfying moment, you then pull the first end, which is connected to that loop. Can you see? It's there, it's pulling it up. And then also as you pull it, it makes it do a little smile. Just tinker with that a little bit. So that isn't my most even make ever. Just have a little play with it. All right, so that's the final look there. It's also ended up a little bit shorter than the one I showed you. It's just because I've gone so fat. And this one, you can see, it's a little bit more compact. So I just needed to concentrate a little bit more. But there you go. You've got your little rope necklace. And then what you can do is you can size it. So you can decide how big you want it. Make sure, I always get it wrong on the mirror. There you go. Oh, my arms are like doing the opposite to what I want them to. Right, here we go. I know from sight, to be honest. Right, here we go. So that's the sort of size that I want them. So I'm just going to snip those ends off. But the good thing is, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to use those to make some matching earrings. So they're cut off. And then what I do is I just grab a pair of these Kumihimo ends that I've bought. Like I said, they've got like an 8mm hole for this size rope, but you would need to obviously match it up with the thickness of your rope. And then I really like this glue. I think it comes from Japan. It's a 401 glue. You can buy it here. The reason I like it is the container that it comes in. It's a super fast glue, but because it's got this nice little lid, I find that they just last for months. So I quite like, if you know, when you buy those little tubes in the supermarket, they're good because they're cheap. But the bad thing is once you've opened it, it's gone forever. Whilst this one, I'll come back to this for like months to come, and it'll still open and still release glue, which is great. What I do is I pour 50% filled with glue in here. So don't fill it right to the top, otherwise it'll all splurge out. Even a third would be enough. So just putting a little bit of glue in the bottom, and then grab the end, pop it inside. But I always have to hand something like a kebab stick or a cocktail stick, just so I don't have to use my hand, and I force it down on top. And then what you'll find is the glue will work really quickly if you do that, because if there's no air, it will react. Sometimes even the metal goes hot because it's so quick to react, and that means that it's drying. So yeah, pop one on one end, pop a clasp on the other side, and you are good to go. But I did say earlier, if you didn't have these metal ends, I'll give you an alternative solution to making them, which looks a bit like this one here. All right, so I've done a similar thing. The way I've added those beads is, you know, that long bit of thread, I threaded that on first, and then I just dropped off a bead every now and then onto the surface of the design. So that's a little kind of, you know, cute way of adding beads. And then this is a bunch of square knots, and that also acts as a kind of sliding knot. So that's quite a useful fitting, actually. So you can have a long necklace and a short necklace all in one. So it's a shame I cut this so short, actually. I'm just going to fake it with this one for a second. So let's go back to this one. So what you can do, I'll do it with a different colour. So you can see, I'll do it this bright, I'll do it this pink. Here we go. So I can't actually remember how much thread I needed. I'm going to guess for now. I've gone for about 60 centimetres there. So you need to keep your ends much longer, because what you're going to do is you're going to overlap them like so that they're creating a necklace. You're going to slide possibly the same colour rope on the end there. So, and I'm just going to do it on this angle. I think this will be easier for you to see. And then I'm going to do a square knot. So if any of you have ever done any macrame, hopefully you'll remember how to do that. Let's make this a bit clearer. So for a square knot, you've got your even amounts of thread on either side. You're making a number 4 with the left-hand side. So let me put that there so you can kind of see. And then the right-hand one is going over the top, and then it's going underneath your necklace bits there. And then that's half a square knot there. All right, so you've created a knot like that. I'll do it a few times to show you. That's the left-hand side one. You also need to make a right-hand side one. So that's doing a backwards number 4. So your right-hand strand is in a loop that way. And then your left-hand one, goes over the top. And then that goes through the center. That's one square knot. There's a pair there. Okay, so like I said, these would be much longer. So that's my first square knot there. So I'll do it again. So I'll try and hold it like this if you like. So I'm making a little shape like that, like a little loop. The opposite side is going over the top, and then that's the one that's currently on my right is going through the center of that loop that you made on the opposite side, and that's half a square knot. To complete that square knot, you just need to do it again in reverse. So that's a backwards loop, and then take that over the top, and then that comes through. Ooh. All right, so that's my little square knots. I've done 2, which will hopefully be enough for this one, but I think if I was doing it properly, I would do 3 square knots. So actually this is getting a bit short, so maybe go about 80 centimeters if you want 3 square knots. And then basically these would obviously be a bit longer, but you obviously need to just pop a knot on the end of them so that they don't, you know, go inside the square knot. So you're just putting a little knot on one end, a little knot on the other end. Obviously you wouldn't have a metal end on it. That was just my demonstration model, like so. And then these are obviously a little bit ugly. So all I do is I cut them off, and then just so that they're secure, I super glue them. So I just use the same super glue. Put it up. Where's it gone? It's got a safety thing on it. There. Ooh. And then I pop some super glue on the joint there, and maybe even use my little kebab skewer again to make sure that it stays in place and I don't touch it. Like I said, they're great. I've pretty much used kebab skewers for like all crafts. There you go. All right, so I've just forced that there. It's a little bit wet now, but it'll dry clear. All right, so that's how to do kind of a sliding knot at the end of your necklace. And like I said, this video, I've got a slower version, and over my shoulder, which might be useful on my website, which is like larkdesignmake.co.uk. So that might be useful if you fancy having a go at those. And then I said you could use your scraps. You can make earrings like this. Oh, I'll quickly talk you through that. So basically all I did for this one is I had 3 strands, and then I did exactly the same, but I just kept trying to keep the 3 strands in the same order. So like I said, that's definitely a level 2 kind of class. This little scrap here, I don't want this ugly little bit sticking out. All I do to make these earrings is I just simply do a knot. All right, so I just take the 2 ends, I do a knot, I have a little look at it, I decide if it's the right size, I cut it down to size. This one is quite tricky to fit inside the Kumihimo clasp because it's obviously 2 ends now, so it's kind of like really quite bulky. Let me find an earring end. Here we go. Will do. All right, so I've got an earring hook attached to one of my Kumihimo ends. So I'm going to pop the glue inside, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm really safe in and have my kebab stick to hand so that when I force it in, so often I put one in first, make sure that gets inside, and then I get the second one ready to go, like so, and then I get prepared. I often use the flat end of the kebab stick actually because it's a little bit more chunky. And I force that inside. Ooh, I think I was a bit slow there. There we go, got to act quite fast on this one. Make sure you get as much in as possible. Again, I can definitely feel it warming up this time. There you go. And that's the world's simplest little earring, just with a little scrap. Obviously, I'm using this chunky stuff, which is a little bit harder to get hold of. And it's a shame I forgot to bring any home, but I've got loads of earrings like this at work that are made from just your regular kind of macrame 5mm rope. And also I've made them out of t-shirt yarn as well, but I forgot to bring them home with me. And I still haven't got Wi-Fi at the studio, which is very sad. So yeah, so that's the fishtail. And like I said, that's a self-named, just because that's what I think it looks like. And these little earrings. So hopefully you've managed to grasp that. Let me know if you've got any questions. This is quite a nice one to do as well. Oh, thank you, Rosemary. Yeah, it'll be there forever, I guess. This is a nice, easy bracelet, or I suppose necklace you could make out of it. And that's just using 2 little hoops of rope, and I've actually now forgotten how you put them back together. It's like one of those magic activities. Oh, there you go. There you go. Oh, that was a bit of pressure there. So you just slide them in together. So you just put one inside the other and then put the end through as well. There you go. close it up. So all I needed to do for that one was, again, take some rope, and again, you could use 3 lengths. So I've used one here where I've done double bits of rope. I've used 2 bits of rope there. And again, these nice Kumihimo ends are really handy for this sort of thing. So all I've done is I've figured out the size of a wrist. And then I've actually cut something that's double that size because it needs to fold in half. So I'm going to cut one of those. I'll do a multicolored one, shall I? Here we go. One like that. One like that. All right, I'm going to fold those. You could either then, I had these little clasps that I had left over from something. So I've just squashed them inside there. But just like we did for the earrings, you could also just force them inside there. So I'll do that this time because I've got those at home. So I'm just popping again a little bit of glue in the bottom, being careful to force it in. Obviously, I've pretty much rushed these dimensions, but obviously once you start super gluing, there's no turning back as far as editing the size. So spend a little bit more time than I have checking the dimensions and making sure it's a nice fit before you rush in and do this gluing section. Forcing that in there. And again, you could just use a few pieces of rope or wool or string. You could plait the string if you haven't got any. Thank you, Susan. I made this bicycle on my wall. I always love telling people that. I'm a bit scared to ride it, not because it would break. It is actually fairly strong, but because I would be gutted if someone thought that it was, could steal it. That would be, I think I'd be forever searching for it. So there you go. So that's the other half. All right, so I've got one loop. I'm just going to wait a second because they're boiling hot, which means that they're not dry yet. Oh, I thought then I'd put up. So I've obviously got one with a extendable chain on, and then I've got one with a little clasp on. So I'm just going to wait a second, let them cool down before I do anything else. I had something else I wanted to show you. Yeah, again, I probably won't demonstrate this one because it's super easy. But if you can see here, I've just forced in 1, 2, 3, 4 strands of regular rope and then 1 strand of chunky rope, but you could do whatever you want. And then all I've done is plaited them. So I've just plaited them all the way along. And then when I finished with the length, I put an end on, which again, I think I've got a bit mad because I put 2 ends on. I need to change one to a clasp. But that would be a nice necklace and also a nice bracelet, like so. Ooh, that's here. All right, so you could change that. That's quite an easy one. So just basically doing a plait is I've done some weird mixture of threads, but you could also just use 3 threads. So yeah, totally loving these Kumihimo ends. I think these are cooled down now. Yeah, great. Okay, so then I'm taking the one end, so I put it inside the other, and then I'm popping that back through. And there we have a nice bracelet ready to wear. Yes, yeah, t-shirt yarn is perfect. This one's done with t-shirt yarn. This is actually a Christmas t-shirt yarn that I happen to have. So that's got little reindeers on. You can't really see them. And then it's got that knot at the end. Very bit messy on that one, but it's only a Christmas one. This was quite a nice one. This was just using a regular rope. So I just used a regular like beige rope. And then when I had some dye out for something else, I like dip dyed half of it. So it looks quite cool. Bit like eye-catching, I thought. So that's quite nice. And then this was just, again, another bit of rope that I found somewhere, and I did the same, the fishbone. And can you see all I used for the finding there was a bead. So I've got the 2 ends. I've put a knot on it on each, but obviously before I put the knot on the each, I've popped a bead on there. So then I can just slide the bead up to the height of the neck, pop it over my head. There you go. And that's on. I keep getting this wrong, which way around it is on the mirror. It's funny. So yeah, that's a super easy one. If you've got beads with big holes inside that you could use to as a closing method. Oh, thanks, Catherine. So yeah, that's another bracelet that you could use, and again, looks quite effective. And you could use a couple of strands of t-shirt yarn to make it. And like I said, they look quite expensive. And imagine that with a matching necklace. So I don't know if I've done a necklace in that colour. I haven't done a necklace in that colour, but a matching necklace. And you'd be well aware. You could even do like a blue necklace with like a pink knot at the back. And this is my silly demo one. But I think that would make it looks quite nice in the two-tone, doesn't it? And then I was going to show you one more, and it's very similar to the other knot that I showed you, and it's a square knot twist on a single piece of rope. So I'll finish off with that one, but I'll keep checking in the corner and make sure that anyone's like looking for any additional information, and I'll hopefully send you in the right direction. And obviously I'll take a little look and see if there's any questions as and when they come in as well. So for this one, I'll do it in two-tone as well, just so it's easier to see. The first rope I'm going to cut is this one. So I need to cut that to the size that I want to go around my neck. So obviously, if you're going to use a Kumihimo end, you'd need to make sure you know it can be to size. Or if you're going to do one of the sliding things with a knot, you could obviously make it a little bit longer to make sure you account for that overlap that's needed. So if you want to plan for that, so I'll use my nice Kumihimo ends. So I'm just going to cut the length that I want, and that is that rope there. Okay, that one's travels all the way through and comes back out there. So I've got that. What did I do? I've lost it. Around my neck, losing it. And then I've got my pink rope, and I'm going to use the way you in macrame you generally measure things, as I generally find it's about 3 times longer than what it ultimately wants to be. So I'm about to do a big twisty knot like that. So the length of that is that. So I need it at least 3 times longer than that. And I feel like that's not even enough. So I'm going to go a little bit longer. I'm going to go 4 times longer, just to be sure. All right, so that's about 1 meter of the other rope that I've taken. We'll see how we get on. All right, so we're making this. Let me put this up on the neck so you can see what we're doing. Cool. All right, so again, it's hard to show it in this perspective. But if you remember, it's a square knot, and there's millions of like really good videos, and you can easily follow from the right angle. But I'll try and sit in this angle. Well, actually, maybe if I do this, let's try something out here. Okay, I'll try it like this. Okay, so this is my center rope, and then I'm just taking this long rope and I'm finding the midway. Make sure I find the half there. Okay, and I'm about to do a square knot over my blue. So it's a loop to one side. Okay, so in this case, for me, it's on the left, and then the right rope, I call that like doing like a 4, the shape of the number 4, and then the right rope goes over the top of the arm of the 4. So if that's your number 4, you've got the bit sticking out, and then you pass it underneath and through, like so. All right, and that's the first. Well, actually, the good thing with the twist is you don't have to do the back and forth. You don't have to do the left and then the right. And that just makes a square knot. So we're just going to keep doing that. So we're going that loop, that over the top, popping that through. One more time. And then I guess I should make a little plug for my business, is that we do sell this chunky yarn in a kit. So we put about 3 meters of 2 different colors and some stuff for some earrings and all the Kumihimo bits in a nice little box with some instructions for a tenner. So if you did want that's all on my website as well. All right. But yeah, like I said, I'm more than happy for you to go out, and I like people not to be wasteful. So go and have a little rummage and see what you can find in your house. So I just keep doing the same knot over again. So I'm doing that left side loop and then popping the right side one under the middle thread and through the center. So I'm just going to put this on the table now, just because it's a little bit hard working in that perspective. All right, so you can see what's happening. So it's just twisting up. So I'm just center yarn. So this is a good. I really need to sand down this table. I hope you can't see how scruffy it is. Thanks, Sue. So I'm just going to keep going until the rope runs out. And so that was 1 meter of rope. Obviously, depending on what you use, it will alter. But generally, it's quite surprising how much thread macrame eats up. So be quite generous when you're cutting your rope. So I'm just going to keep going. Thanks, Debbie. Yeah, I try my best to try and think of how to break it down. And it has been quite interesting doing stuff online. I've really changed the way that I describe things. And I'm noticing that when I'm now back teaching in person, I'm using a lot of the words and that I've used to describe things online. I found it weirdly interesting, all this change of, like, you know, way we've had to do things. So I'm trying to make, you know, see a silver lining from it all. So I'm glad you enjoy. So I think I'm at the end. I'm going to try and squeeze one more in. Ooh, I can do it. So I said, this is a kind of a spiral square knot. So square knot's the most common of the macrame knots. So it's quite surprising that was a meters of rope and it's turned into just this little spiral like this. Now, obviously I've got these ugly ends. So like I did earlier, you're going to need to glue those in. So what I often do, if I can find my little kebab stick here, is I take it and I force it into like the previous knot, because I don't want that to unravel and I don't want the glue to be visible. So I take it and I force it down into the kind of the previous knot. So it's not very visible. Find it again. So I'm trying to make a little hole so I can squeeze it in. So I've just opened up the previous and I'm just going to make it go inside there. And then the rest I'll cut off. I'm also going to force some glue inside as well. It's quite hard with this chunky yarn. I did the last knot really tight, which maybe wasn't my best idea. I might use these scissors actually, just because the kebab stick isn't as strong as I would like. So I've just forced it in to the thread, to the stitch behind. All right, so it's there. And then I'm just going to take my glue, pop it right in, like in the seam itself, so that you're not kind of, you haven't got ugly glue on the outside of your necklace. So are we all watching Sewing Bee this weekend? I think it's the last one, isn't it? It'd be a bit sad. I've kind of got quite attached to them. So I'll just give that a second to dry and then I'll cut it off right down to the surface. Hide that ugliness. And here. Cool. And there we have a spiral on a necklace. Oh, keep doing that. And then you can decide how, I can't do it, how you finish that off. So whether you just use a Kumihimo clasp, I might want to just move it around a bit. It's not in the middle at the moment. Stretch it out a second, get in the middle. And then I can either add the metal end, which I've shown you a couple of times now, or if it was longer, I could have overlapped it, done a couple of square knots over the top, or I forgot about this one. I think that's quite a nice finish as well. Got myself a bead and finished it off with one of those. So yeah, hopefully nice and simple, because that's a good thing is I find chunky jewellery, it's great for Zoom, you know, brightens up. I've actually just got some denim shorts on here. I look pretty scruffy, but actually I've put on some accessories and I look like I've made an effort. So I would highly recommend chunky jewellery. And then the fact that it's so easy to make means that you can have a bunch of them and you can wear a different one every day, which is a quite nice little luxury. And it's using lots of scraps. So yeah, so hopefully that was helpful. Like I said, and if you do go to our website, I think it's under the macrame section, and there's a slower video for a few of these knots that might be useful for you. So yeah, and obviously Virtual Village Hall keep them on their page, so you can watch them again as many times as you'd like. All right, I'm going to go and do some tidying. Not a very exciting day today. I hope you've got something more exciting. Thank you, Caroline. Looks like you've all got everything you need, and I'll hopefully see you again soon. And do let me know, actually, do type at the bottom if there's anything else that you'd like to learn, because I am struggling to come up with ideas that are kind of, you know, achievable with stuff that you've got at home. So yeah, it's getting harder and harder because I've done a lot of these videos over the last year or so. So if you think of anything that you'd like me to show, then I'm more than up for the challenge. Great. All right. Thank you. Yes. Have a good luck, Sue. And I'll speak to you all again soon. Bye.